Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world, and you are a part of it wherever you are. Shalom and welcome, y'all. It's been a crazy last week, and I am so happy to be back with you. It's been a crazy day today. I've been on tour in the Old City. I've toured Hebron today, and I also was one of the people that welcomed our very beloved hostage home to Kiryat Arba, which is a town that I work with a lot, since Kiryat Arba is the sister city of Hebron. And so I'm going to show you just videos about that in a second. But before I do, I just want to say that I'm happy to be broadcasting with you. I'm in a good mood. And I want to stay in a good mood. I don't want to talk about all the dark stuff. I want to talk about a little bit of light stuff. I want to start with a little bit of light energy, with a sweet energy. And that's what we had today. We had some sweet energy in the Jewish community of Kiryat Arba and Hebron. One of our own sons returned from the depths of hell, and he returned to us. His name is Eitan Moore. What a jubilation we had today. What a jubilation. You know what? And I'm going to wait for just a second before I get to that story. By the way, it is 10:30 at night. I usually start my show at like 7, but that's the kind of day that it was today. But I was like, we are not giving up. So I'm just going to wait until more people come into the live stream right now. So I'm going to say hi to the folks that are saying hi. For example, hello from Arizona. Okay, Baruch Hashem. And Sandra says, I'm rather worried after watching Vance. Governments come and go, but we are the eternal, and so is our covenant. So what are you worried about? don't worry so much. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And says Yishai Shavua Tov from the Netherlands in the Galut. All right, that's okay. The Netherlands, good, lot of good things in the Netherlands. I enjoyed my time there. But in any case, I'm in a great mood to be with you guys, and let me tell you why. Yes, I said hello to Arizona. I already said that. Yocheved, I already said hello to Arizona, but I didn't say hello to Halifax, Canada, and Kansas City, and Guadalajara, Mexico, and Moore Holland. Okay, so there's people from all over the world, and you are getting a shout out as we're starting our show here from beautiful Judea. Says Tax Shooter, dealing with America is like dealing with a bipolar person with multiple personality disorder. There's something to that. There's definitely something to that. Sadly, it's not so bipolar. It gets back to the same thing every time. Keep Israel small, keep Israel weak. Let other people have our land. And tell us how to fight. It gets back to that. Anyway, let me just say some more hellos. We got British Ulster, Northern Ireland. We got Germany. We got Australia. We got Mars, first time ever. Oh, my God. This show is getting big. I'm telling you, we're reaching all kinds of folks. We got Ohio. We got Alabama. We got Canada, Long Island, Ohio, California, Missouri, Norway, Arkansas. We got folks from all over the world, and it's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's great to be with you. All right, let's get started. So, this is the way we're going to get it started. You know what? Before I get started, I just want to have a cup of tea. It's been a long day, friends. It's been a long day. And my producer, Yo, is in Jerusalem. Beautiful. Awesome. And Deb's from South Africa. That's right. And Tanzania. Are you kidding? That's awesome. That's awesome. Kenya. We got Kenya. We got Tanzania. And we got Turkey with the proud Turkish flag. I hope you're with us. I hope you're with us, Jane, and not on the other side. But even if you're on the other side, you're still welcome here. We got Portugal. We got blessings. We got folks. We got folks from all over the world. Okay, and Yo reminds us that she was in the Peace Corps in Tanzania, and we got our good folks in Texas. Okay, it's time to do the show. It's time to do the show. So here we go. Before I do the show, I just want to say Chaim, everybody. Cheers, Sláinte, and God bless. Sláinte is Gaelic. I learned it when I was in Australia. So it's been a very long day, and I just want you to bless me to have a little bit of strength, to have some fun with you. So I want to say a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyeh b'dvaro. Oh yeah, that's good. Did you see my video about Noah's Ark? If you haven't, check out our awesome Noah's Ark film, shot by my brother Josh, edited by Yo. Great stuff that we put out right before Shabbat. And now this Shabbat is Shabbat Lech Lecha. This is when we're introduced to Abraham, or Abram in the beginning, and then Abraham. We're going to talk about how he leaves Haran and comes to the land of Israel. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really, really awesome. I see somebody enjoyed the weird animals, but great video. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're having some tea, and today's a special day. First thing is that my oldest daughter, Leah, turned 18, and that was very special. That was very special to have a big... Wait, this is the best comment I ever heard. Hold on. Where did that comment go? I really like that comment. Yocheved, where did it go? Where's the lunatic rabbi comment? Oh, no. I really like that one. Phooey. Anyway, if you see that lunatic rabbi comment, please bring it back. I like that a lot. In any case, I want to start with positivity. First thing is Eitan Moore is one of our sons, one of our brothers. He came back home today from the hospital from 2 years of horrific captivity. Here is some footage about him coming home today. Okay, so there's Eitan Moore coming into Gush Etzion. Here's me waiting for him in Kiryat Arba. All right, folks, Yishai Fleischer here. We're waiting for the hostage released, Eitan Moore. Thousands of people in his native city of Kiryat Arba, sister city of Hebron. We're just waiting for him to come home from the hospital. 2 years he was away from us. He's returned alive with prayers, with strength. And we are just psyched. There's thousands of people here all around. We've taken over a whole traffic circle. This is just one of the many traffic circles that are waiting for Eitan Moore to come home. And this is part of the victory. Because part of the victory is the hostages, and the other part is the destruction of Hamas so that it never happens again. But today, with all the challenges, we celebrate Eitan Moore, and we're waiting for him. In another few minutes, he'll be here, and everybody here is going to be welcoming our brother, our hostage, now free. Am Yisrael's going to be free and victorious. Am Yisrael Chai. Okay, and here is Eitan Moore himself speaking as he arrived home. Wait a minute. That's not the one. Here it is. No, that's not the one either. Hold on one second. Where was the one that he was speaking? Where was the one that he was speaking? Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was that. You see how many how much energy there is of Eitan Moore coming home, and I just wanted to play you one more video of actually hearing his voice, but I'm having a hard time playing that video for some reason. Not sure why. Oh, let's try it this way. That is not the one that I wanted to play. I'm having issues today a little bit. I'm having a little bit of issues. That's okay. As I said, it was a long day, but let's play this one. So this is, let's call it Speaks 2. And let's see if we can play it for you guys. Because his
תודה רבה לכל מי שבא, לכל הגושניקים והגושניקיות.
Thank you to all the people of the Gush Etzion. There he is sitting in a van, and he's just giving energy to people. People are so psyched. Here he is after 2 years of captivity, and it's just an awesome homecoming. Thank you to all the soldiers that fell, and thank you to all of those who are injured. He's recognizing that his contribution of survival is important, but there are those who lay down their lives in the fight. Thank you to all the security services that worked so hard. Okay, so his words in many ways are very, very simple. His words are simple. Thank you to all those people who sacrificed so much to do that, to bring me home and to fight for us and to fight for our country. Thank you so much. And that's his words. Simple words and moving words. The fight for Gaza continues. We're going to keep talking about that in a few minutes for sure. But simply put, he says, you know, I'm home and I had miracles, but I am here because of the strength of the Jewish army, of the Israeli army. I'm so thankful to the rest of you for being there for each other. And it's just very moving. The same time, I had something else very moving happen this week, which is similar. And that is that I went to my producer, Yo, her son, Yosef, was inducted finally, or received the Red Beret of the paratroopers in the famous Red Beret ceremony at the Ammunition Hill. And it was very moving for me because I was there 30 years ago, exactly 30 years ago, to receive my Red Beret at the very same place. So it was very moving to have those feelings, to be there at that place and to see it for myself. And interestingly enough, not only did I feel like I had a hand in the in being a paratrooper, and then having a hand in raising or putting the idea of Yosef's going to the army. I thought that was very moving. I even saw 3 of my paratrooper mates, my buddies, also with their sons being inducted into the paratroopers. That was very moving. Here is me at Yosef's Red Beret ceremony at Ammunition Hill. Yishai Fleischer here. I'm at Givat Tachmoshet, which is called Ammunition Hill, which is where the paratroopers finish off their long hike to receive their Red Berets. They just received their Red Berets, and this is the draftees of 2025, and I'm a draftee of 1995, so it's 30 years since I received my Red Beret, and I was a lone soldier, and today I'm here with my producer and her son, who's a lone soldier and receiving his Red Beret today. The commander of the paratroopers just spoke. He talked about the 68 paratroopers that have fallen in the battle with Gaza, but they went in and fought and defeated the enemy and continue to protect the homeland of the Jewish people. Inside this group is also a religious group. There's a lot of religious soldiers and then a specific religious group, and there's a real sense of a love of the land, a love of God, a love of Jerusalem, a love of fighting our enemies and securing our peoplehood. God bless these paratroopers. God bless you wherever you are. And may we see the strength of Jerusalem, the strength of the Jewish people, the strength of these young men building families in this homeland of the Jewish people that God has brought us back to. God bless you and shalom. So that was very moving. In fact, in this video I was just watching, says what was that? Says Choke says paratroopers are the toughest of the tough. Kudos to Yosef. Absolutely. And I want to tell you that in that video, I saw one of the guys that was in the army with me. He was in the army with me. I just saw him in the background, and this guy was a great soldier and a buddy of mine. It was just kind of so, I kind of teared up a little bit, and I didn't even know why. I just thought to myself, it was there's a word that I always forget because I don't like the word, but like nostalgia. That's what it is. Nostalgia. There was just a sense of nostalgia, a sense of the cycle of life. And there we are. And I was a lone soldier, and Yosef was a lone soldier, and is a lone soldier. And so very moving moment there at Ammunition Hill. Very, very special for me personally. So those were two good newses that I wanted to talk about today. First, the return of Eitan Moore and the induction of the paratroopers. Okay, let's get to a little bit of news together, and we're going to have a guest to discuss it. Let's turn to ILTV and see their news roundup today, and then see if we can discuss some of the issues that are happening out there today.
The Mossad has released the identity of the mastermind behind an international network allegedly responsible for attempted attacks and kidnappings against Israelis and Jews around the world. Sardar Amar, head of Unit 11,000 with the Islamic Republic's Quds Force, established a covert unit responsible for carrying out acts of terrorism against Jewish institutions and individuals, both in Israel and abroad, including in Europe and Australia. According to the Mossad, the network conducted acts of vandalism and arson, attacks against Jewish-owned businesses, Chabad centers, and synagogues, as well as direct physical violence against Jewish figures. Many of the planned attacks were thwarted, leading to the revelation of this network. Additionally, the Mossad said the Iranian terror network used compartmentalized cells, foreign national recruits, and criminal proxies to avoid a direct connection to the Iranian regime. And meanwhile, back to Gaza, where U.S. President Donald Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Hamas, warning, return the hostage remains or expect action from the ceasefire agreement partners. Writing on his social media platform during a refueling stop in Doha, Qatar, Trump posted, quote, "We have a very strong peace in the Middle East, and I believe it has a good chance of being everlasting. Hamas is going to have to start returning the bodies of the deceased hostages, including 2 Americans, quickly, or the other countries involved in this great peace will take action. Some of the bodies are hard to reach, but others they can return now, and for some reason, they are not." According to Israeli intelligence, Hamas currently holds the remains of 8 hostages and does not know the location of the remaining 5. And for the first time since the ceasefire, Israel approved entry of a foreign team into Gaza to search for the remains. Aided by Egypt, a team with 2 engineering vehicles entered Gaza to help locate the 13 bodies still held by Hamas. And Hamas was also seen searching for bodies today, along with the Red Cross, another use for the international organization besides being an Uber driver. A senior Israeli official said that Israel is seeing signs of serious effort from all sides, including Hamas, to locate and retrieve the bodies. Earlier, Trump met aboard Air Force One with Qatari Emir Al Thani and the Qatari Prime Minister and had this to say.
We've done is incredible peace to the Middle East, and they were a very big factor in it, so I just want to thank you. I was thinking, we're landing here, we're going to fuel up, and it's such an honor to have you on the plane. You don't do this often.
Never, first time.
I don't think he's ever done this, actually, but it's an honor. We have a great, he's a great ally, they are a great ally, and these are 2 great men. And as long as we're together and you have those cameras rolling, I want to just say we express our thanks. And you have a safe Middle East right now. And you're going to keep it that way for a long time.
And meanwhile, the United States has reportedly begun flying drones over Gaza to provide Washington an independent assessment of developments. and to support the Civil Military Coordination Center, or CMCC, now operating under U.S. leadership from Kiryat Gat in Israel. According to the New York Times, the U.S. military is flying the spy drones over Gaza with Israel's consent. The CMCC is tasked with overseeing humanitarian, logistical, and security aid into Gaza as part of the post-war stabilization effort. About 200 American military personnel have been deployed to help run the facility, which also includes troops from Jordan, the UAE, the UK, Germany, France, Spain, Denmark, Canada, and Australia. U.S. Central Command stressed that American forces will not enter Gaza itself. And according to quoted U.S. officials, it's part of a broader effort to ensure that both Hamas and Israel are complying with the fragile ceasefire. And we want to end this hour with some good news. Released hostages Evyatar David and Guy Gilboa Dalal have returned home. They've been released from the hospital and returned home to reunite with their families, friends, and neighbors. And that's
all right. So that was a report from ILTV. We saw the story about the Mossad. We saw the story about the return hostages, but the main story is Gaza. And really the question is, what's going on with Gaza? Is this a real deal? We see President Trump being chummy with Qatar, and we're confused. We're all confused, right? As like, is this something that's going to lead really, there's another threat against Hamas, 48 hours, hell will break loose. Is this starting to become like a joke, or is it real? Is there a plan here, or is it just kind of back to the same old, same old? Somebody who really has a great grip on the happenings of the Middle East is Dan Diker, who is the president of the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs and a longtime director of the Counter-Political Warfare Project. He previously served as Secretary General of the World Jewish Congress and is widely published analyst on Middle East affairs, BDS, and the politics of delegitimization. That's right. So Dan Diker joins us today. Shalom and welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks very much, Yishai. Great to be with you late in the evening.
It is late in the evening, and I know that we've both had long days. Let's start with Gaza, Dan Diker. Is this a real deal or is this a joke? And really, people are confused. Honestly, people are like, on the one hand, people are like, look, Trump has done a lot of things. He helped Israel bomb Iran. He seems to be forcing the Qataris to force the Hamas to give up the hostages. There seems to be good stuff there. On the other hand, international forces in Gaza, is that really something that we want? Is Hamas becoming empowered again? I just spoke to a soldier today. He's like, yeah, they're walking around with Kalashnikovs. We see them all the time. Or are they actually going to relinquish their weapons? Is this thing real? Is Israel going to be safer at the end of this process?
Well, that's the key question, Yishai. And it seems that anybody who knows something about Hamas and Islamic political warfare and political culture knows that there's only one force that can, by force, bring Hamas to heel, to disarm, to demilitarize, and that's the IDF, Israel Defense Forces. You notice that today people are making a big deal of the fact that Egyptian bulldozers have come in to Gaza on the nominal task of recovering bodies and clearing the pathway towards distributing humanitarian aid. We might notice that Egypt is not bringing one armed soldier into Gaza, and neither is any other Arab armed force, because there is no Arab armed force or any other international force other than the United States, which has already said it is not going to put boots on the ground, that could possibly disarm Hamas. So on that level, you asked the question, is this real or is this fake? Well, it's very real to assess that Hamas, as the precursor to Al-Qaeda, as an Islamic jihadist organization, they live and die by the sword and the rifle. So there is no way that they are going to commit suicide as an Islamic organization, lay down their arms. That's who they are. That's why they live, and that's why they call themselves martyrs. So what we're witnessing here, Yishai, is the price that is being paid for freeing the remaining 20 live hostages, getting the Arab and Muslim countries to sign on to that. It's not even. It's a pact. It's not even an agreement. There is no. And you're an international lawyer. There is no international legal mechanism to enforce this temporary, what we call in Middle Eastern terms, in Islamic terms, a hudna, which is a temporary ceasefire in Islamic terms until Hamas rearms, re-energizes, resupplies, and can then attack from a much stronger position. That's where we are. And anybody that tells you that Hamas is going to lay down its arms, or that the UAE, Saudi, or any of the, or even Indonesia is going to send special forces in there to force Hamas to its knees, is just living in an alternate reality.
Okay, so what do you make of this language that we've now heard? I'm starting to think it's starting to sound a little funny. This Trumpian language of all hell will be let loose, or the gates of hell, that kind of stuff. It's kind of starting to sound a little redundant and a little like, it's in Middle East terms. It's like you use that thread a few too many times. It starts to sound like you don't really mean it. So how do you make of, what do you make of that? Remember that we had with Iran, he gave him 60 days. On the 61st day, they bombed. Are these ultimatums real, or is it something? Is it what's it called? Lip service that is just there to kind of make us believe that they're being tough, but in fact they're passing it. They're letting them rearm, and they're bringing Qatar in, Turkey in, and therefore Hamas is going to be stronger tomorrow. In short, what do you make of the Trumpian threats?
Well, Trump has kept his word in the past. I mean, he said the same thing to the Iranian regime, that I'm going to give you 60 days, and then he gave Israel the green light, and the United States mobilized B-2 bombers to blow out the nuclear program at Fordo, Isfahan, and one other site. So he does keep his word. I think that the army that's going to do the dirty work is only the IDF. So I think he's basically planning on letting Israel continue its what we call low, medium, and even high intensity warfare against Hamas. Let's be very clear that Hamas today is divided into two. There's the to use New York City terms, there's the east side and the west side of Gaza, the east side being controlled by Israel and the United States up to what they call the yellow line, which is quite deep into Gaza with a topographical advantage. And then Hamas controls still the west side of Gaza. And Gaza is only 2,200 square kilometers, so it's a very small strip. But I think we can take President Trump at his word. I don't know if it's going to be a pure 48 hours, but I think, judging by the Iranian regime, the attack on the Iranian regime by Israel and the United States, I think we can take Trump seriously. The question is going to be whether it's going to happen literally after 48 hours. And it's going to be much more difficult than people think it is. Israel's been at war with Hamas for 2 years. They still have 50% of the 500 miles of terror tunnels active. And let's be very clear, the Hamas has up to 20,000 fighters, some of them only teenagers, 16, 17, 18, but they're filling the ranks. They've got plenty of weaponry. We know IDF assessment from just a few days ago revealed that there are 6 divisions and 24 platoons, and they've got plenty of weaponry left. So there's lots to destroy when it comes to Hamas. And this whole international force, this technocratic government, international force, that's more lip service than it is reality. At the end of the day, it's going to be Israel that's going to force Hamas to disarm and carry out demilitarization. No other force is prepared to do it. They're simply not going to confront the Hamas. But I do think that President Trump is serious. I think what we really need to pay attention to is that, from President Trump's point of view, Gaza is an annoyance towards achieving his regional goal. Regional goal has 2 major aspects. One, the Trump vision for a secure, stable, and prosperous Middle East, with Saudi Arabia leading. That's a really big vision for President Trump. We saw that vision playing out in May 2020 and 2025 when he took a trip to the Gulf and he came back with promises of a few $trillion in business for the United States. So that vision is real, but it's a vision, and Hamas is not a vision. Hamas is a very stark terror reality on the ground. The other aspect of this, Yishai, that we really have to mention, it's the elephant in the room. That's called the Trump and Arab partner ally support for the establishment of a Palestinian state. That is a very dangerous component that is real, and it is a demand made by Trump's Arab and Islam and Muslim partners and allies that they, made a condition to signing on to the Trump 20-point plan. And I think that is going to bring to bear a lot of pressure on Israel as part of this regional vision. It's very dangerous because better than anyone in the neighborhood that any kind of sovereign, independent, additional Palestinian entity is going to be a platform that could lead to the next October 7th, God forbid, and it has to be rejected at all costs.
Okay, so you're saying that Palestinian statehood is somewhere in the offing here. It's a subtext here. You get a sense of that on the one hand, you think that's absurd. How could October 7th, which is an outcropping of us giving away land to some kind of quasi-Palestinian state, it led to this terror attack. How could it lead to more Palestinian state, more land giveaway? But that is a subtext, and that's certainly what the international community wants to see. The Europeans, especially, they're pushing for that. And you used a word about
because they misunderstand. Yishai, I just want to say make one point. Just that there's a very you basically led to a very important point. The West has believed, much to its peril, and in an ill-advised way, that what we are witnessing from October 7th on is a climax of an extreme expression of what they think is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. That conflict, as it was laid out for the last almost 3.5 decades, was made to present itself as a political, territorial conflict given to territorial and political compromise solution. That is false. That is ill-advised. That is a mistake. We are witnessing, and Israel is facing jihad, Islamic warfare, fight to the death, religiously and ideologically charged warfare against the Jews, against Christians, against Western civilization. And that is an uncomfortable reality for the West, for Western civilization to accept, because the West is very solutionist oriented. How do you figure it out? Do you cut it down the middle? They're not in the West, particularly the United States, and in I would say post-church Europe, not used to an ideological war against the West. And this is an ideological war against a Western democracy called the State of Israel. It's also a war against the West. We see Iran has been assassinating people in the United Kingdom. There have been more than 20 attempted assassinations in the last 1.5 years alone. We see Iranian regime terror proxies throughout Europe. We see Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas's mother organization, penetrating the United States. We see, murders and assassinations from yelling Allahu Akbar, God is great in the Arabic idiom, killing 2 young people from the Israeli embassy and others in the United States. This is a religious war, and it is not given to territorial compromise. That is the fundamental shift of thinking, Yishai, that we must help our American friends to understand, because all the territorial and political compromises in the world that actually took place during Oslo. I mean, Israel, under 2 very left progressive prime ministers, Ehud Barak, who became a progressive, who began as a military centrist, but became a progressive when he became prime minister. He basically offered the entire House to the Palestinians. They rejected it, the so-called Palestinians. And the same thing with Ehud Olmert. So it's not an issue of territory or political compromise. It's an issue that requires Israel and the West to defeat wholly these jihadistic adversaries, enemies. And it's very uncomfortable for the West to consider such a situation in which there is only winners and losers in the Middle East. There is no such thing as compromise the way there is in the West. It's considered weakness, it's considered concession, and it is intolerable to the Middle Eastern political cultural reality.
Okay, Dan. That is, I can't agree more with that. I want you to know that I bumped into the German ambassador here in Israel. He was speaking at the JPOS conference. I saw you there as well, and he said some stuff, and sometimes when you're dealing with German ambassadors and German government folks, it gets your hairs up on the back of your neck, and you get angry. I went up to him afterwards. I said to him, "Listen, you're calling for Palestinian statehood, but October 7th was as I said before, was an outcropping of us giving land away, and it led to jihadist control of a piece of land and a war against us." I'm like, how could you come to the conclusion that doing the same formula is going to yield something better if we give away Judea and Samaria to a Palestinian state? So he said to me, well, that's your outlook. Your outlook is that whenever you give away land, it's going to become a jihad place. I said to him, that's not my outlook. That's my experience. That's the fact. But he wouldn't have it. And he really, you could see that we had a very diplomatic but tense moment there. In any case, so that was to explain the point that you were talking about. But I want to shift gears for a second and talk to you for a second as a New Yorker or as a former New Yorker. Two New York issues that I want to bring up, okay? The first New York issue is the CBS interview of Kushner and Witkoff. Kushner and Witkoff go on CBS, instead of praising Netanyahu, as did Trump, calling him a great wartime leader, they rip him hard, and they say we felt betrayed, and basically try to paint Israel as a little bit of an out of control child, where they're the grown-ups and they're the mothers, and the father is Qatar, right? They're like, well, the Qataris are actually they're actually agents of peace and negotiation, and the Israelis are out of control. I could not believe that interview. What was that about? Was that, on the face of it, it just seemed like two guys that are in the pocket of Saudi Arabia and Qatar, ripping on Prime Minister Netanyahu, even though they're Jews, New York Jews. Maybe they had some ulterior motive to try to mollify their Qatari friends, but it was very hard to swallow. So what did you think of that? How did you understand that interview?
Well, when it was on the CBS network, but let's bear in mind, the program 60 Minutes is one of the most veteran-watched, seriously taken programs on American news magazine, in American news magazine broadcast. So it was, very, very high rating program in which Witkoff and Kushner, sort of laid out their Torah, if you will, and they, I think, in an ill-advised way, they were criticizing Israel, because the way they were criticizing Israel was basically to create moral equivalence between Hamas and Israel. How? Witkoff told the story on 60 Minutes about meeting. He wouldn't name him as Hamas leader. He said the leader of that organization. Or he used nomenclature that did not mention the Hamas, but he was referring clearly, directly to Khalil al-Hayya, who was supposed to have been assassinated by Israel in Qatar. It was missed, and here they are negotiating directly with a Hamas leader. Could you imagine if the United States was negotiating with Osama bin Laden or his henchmen directly after 9/11? I mean, it's unthinkable. So what they did by Witkoff telling that story about meeting Khalil al-Hayya in Egypt and sharing with the Hamas leader that Witkoff, had a son, Andrew, who died tragically, and sent his condolences to Elchia. I mean, it's almost, you can't make this up. And the reason he did that was to say, I think in typically, American humanistic terms, we're all people. Like, ideology doesn't matter. Your determination to destroy Israel, and the Jewish people, by the way, according to the Hamas 1988 charter itself, where people are welcome to check out what we're saying here, as well as taking on Western civilization. The Muslim Brotherhood, which is the global mother organization of the Hamas, has targeted the United States for subversion. And here is Steve Witkoff's special envoy of the United States creating a legitimacy for Hamas, which basically paves the way for the next Hamas terror attack against America and against Israel with impunity, because they've just had a major upgrade. That stood out in my mind as I watched the 60-minute interview. And the second issue, that the second observation that these guys made was that Witkoff said they felt betrayed by Israel when we went after the Hamas leadership in Qatar. These types of comments only strengthen the Hamas's determination to carry out terror attacks, and doesn't do anything else. And there has to be zero daylight between Israel and the United States in order for both countries to beat radical Islamic terror. This notion that Witkoff and Kushner say that the Hamas, that Gazans and Palestinian Arabs in Judea and Samaria that voted overwhelmingly for October 7th and Hamas, all they want to do is live normal lives. This is the kind of language that he used in the interview. Is just simply ignores the political, cultural reality of Hamas as a radical Islamic organization, and it undermines the Israel-American alliance in trying to stamp out everyone from the Iranian regime to Hamas, Hezbollah, the PLO, the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, and other Marxist, Leninist, and Islamist organizations. You cannot try to play both sides, as I think our friends from the United States. And I will say that Witkoff and Kushner are very well-meaning. They're very, very intelligent people, but we've got to understand there is no such thing as playing both sides. Either you're with Israel and you're with the cause of freedom, liberty, democracy, or you're not. And I think that this is one of the object lessons that we have got to help our American friends understand. Otherwise, this Islamic terrorism is going to, continue. They're going to strengthen, and that is exactly what's happening in Gaza. And certainly, and I'll end with this: the Hamas's key strategy is to prevent the normalization of relations between Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United States. So they're actually the Americans are actually working against themselves by creating this false moral equivalence and legitimizing the Hamas.
Okay. I'm not going to pry anymore into Witkoff, Kushner, and their motivations. Your points are well made, but there is a second New York question I promised you, and the second New York question is
Mamdani.
That's right. But the preamble to Mamdani is that anybody who understands American Jewry knows that the beating heart of American Jewry is the city of New York. The city of New York is not just a city; it's built partially by Jewish ability and Jewish wealth, and the culture of the city itself has Jewishness just intertwined with Judaism, with the slang, with the you see Jews in the city, just like you see Chinese people or black people, you see Jewish people. It's just part and parcel of what New York City is about. And it doesn't matter how strong Los Angeles or Chicago or Miami or Toronto in Canada is. At the end of the day, the heart of North American Jewry is the New York City area. It's New Jersey, Connecticut, but New York City and Brooklyn and Queens, etc., and Long Island, of course. Now there's this very real threat of Mamdani. To me, I want to ask you, like, how serious is this threat, and is this the end of the golden age of American Jewry? What's American Jewry to do? Is New York City going down? In short, what is the threat of Mamdani? What is the realistic threat? And does it represent a certain end of a great era?
All very important questions. And in fact, you know, I personally was shocked to learn that 20% of the Jewish vote in the Democratic Party was going to Mamdani, and they simply are ignoring the fact that this guy, Bowdoin graduate, well-spoken, handsome, articulate, is a Hamas loyalist, and he cancels out publicly the reality of the nation state of the Jewish people, just doesn't accept it. So he basically has taken on the PLO position on Israel, which is that Israel is an implant and doesn't deserve any legitimacy. And I think that we're talking about an American Jew. We're talking about an American Jewish community, 70% of which votes Democrat, maybe between 70 and 75. And Mamdani represents for them a type of progressive voice that they, in their own mind, they divorce from anything else, including Israel. I think certainly young American Jews from 35 and under have become more demonstratively what they call pro-Palestinian. I mean, that's a term that we have to unpack, because essentially when you say you're pro-Palestinian and you agree with declarations like Mamdani makes, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, globalize the Intifada. Anybody who knows something about the Middle East knows that globalize the Intifada doesn't only mean kill Jews wherever they are, but it also means subvert the United States. This is exactly what Professor Hatem Bazian from Berkeley and now from Zaytuna University, which is a sub-university within the Berkeley campus structure. This is what they've been calling for years. This is Students for Justice in Palestine. All of them are pro-Hamas. They're not pro-Palestinian. Does not mean today that these people, including the Jews, favor a truncated Palestinian state in the what they call the post-1967 territories in Judea and Samaria. They don't even hold that. They are in Mamdani favors the replacement of Israel with this notion of a mystical Palestinian state that's never existed, that the Palestinian people are not even demonstrating to create a Palestinian state. We have to go back to the declarations of Arafat, Mahmoud Abbas, and Hamas. All of them share the same strategic goal: replacing Israel with what they call Palestine. And this is a very Soviet idea of universal justice in their mind, but it involves destroying the Jewish state. This is what Mamdani believes. Doesn't matter how cute he sounds or how educated his Bowdoin education presents him, but that is what he believes. And I think that New York is going into a very dangerous. This guy's a communist. He believes he doesn't believe in the capitalist idea. He certainly, it is absolutely bizarre that he may become the mayor of the most populous Jewish city in the world outside of Israel, the center of America, the castle of American capitalism, entrepreneurialism, American ingenuity, the American financial centers in New York. And that is why Osama bin Laden hit New York in 2001. So I see Mamdani in a way as a continuation of Osama bin Laden, but in Brooks Brothers clothing. That's the only real, that's the only real serious difference. And it's very, very dangerous because you'll find a lot of money will leave New York. And as a friend of mine said, who knows Hamas and jihadism very well, Qatar and Turkey will fill that financial void with lots and lots of money and companies, they will not let Mamdani fail. So you'll see the replacement of civilizational capital, let's call it that way, that will flee New York, and you'll see, I think, even more Qatari ownership, equity, buying power by the billions coming into New York.
Wow. I didn't know about that last part. That's a fascinating. Boy, those Qataris are smart. I gotta give it to them, right? They really know how to play the game out there. They're strategic. People always say they're rich.
Do.
Yeah, but they have a strategic mindset also. They really have a strategic mindset and a strategic goal. They know how to make strategic partners as well. And they've been working on the universities, et cetera, for a long time. And they've reached what they've reached. But really, this could spell the end of New York City as we understand it, and therefore the end of American Jewry, or at least the passing the golden point, certainly, and the weakening of American Jewry from here on. And I guess the Jewish state is the protectorate, the place that we go to continue the story of the Jewish people in this time. Dan Diker, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and keep up the great work at the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. You've also been a longtime director of the Counter Political Warfare Project there, what used to be called JCPA. Now it's got a different name, Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. And you've done a lot of good work on BDS, politics of delegitimization, and generally Middle East affairs. Thank you so much for being with us late in the night tonight.
Enjoy every moment, and we really should have a whiskey, at this time of a nightcap, what's called a nightcap. But hope we have many, and you're doing wonderful work too, Yishai. The movie you did with our mutual friend Mossab Hassan Yusuf, The Green Prince, is a wonderful little documentary that I just watched myself, and very moving. Got a lot of great feedback from people far and wide on that. And this is the war that we're in, the war for legitimacy, the war for historical and legal rights of the Jewish people. And we're in a critical moment right now where the argument is not over borders, it's not over politics, it's over the existence of Israel, the Jewish people's right to 3,600-year-old sovereignty in our historic homeland. We have to keep fighting for that. It's not a theological issue, it's an existential issue. And we face together a very bitter enemy that is determined to end national Jewish life as we know it. And we have a lot of work to do. If the President of the United States, a great friend of the Jewish people in Israel, sits with the Qatari leadership on Air Force One as it is refueling in Qatar, we really have to understand how serious that type of imagery is, and share with our American friends what we need to do in order to come out ahead and win this war.
The war for legitimacy, and legitimacy equals security in the end. People don't understand that formula, but when you're not legitimate, you don't have security. You can't fight. Your hands are tied behind your back. When you're legitimate, the playing field is yours. You could do whatever you want to do to take care of business. And we are definitely in an existential battle, as you say, for the legitimacy of the Jewish state, the state of Israel. Dan Diker, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much, Yishai. God bless.
And enjoy that nightcap, all right?
All right. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, folks. Dan Diker, amazing person that we have on today. And he's check out their work at the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. They're doing a lot of great work out there and fighting that war for legitimacy, as we're talking about right now. Okay, let's actually buttress some of the things that Dan Diker was talking about with an amazing video of Michelle Bachmann. And Michelle Bachmann was at some church speaking, and she spoke for herself. She was not speaking for the church, but she had some very serious analysis about the situation that Israel finds itself in, and many of the questions that I asked Dan Diker about.
Steve Wickoff, and he brought these two in to handle it. It perplexed me. We have a secretary.
Let me start that again, and let me give a little intro once again. So Michelle Bachmann, who ran for president of the United States, she's a dean at You know what? Let me look that up so I could actually introduce that properly. Michelle Bachmann. She is right. Let's get this right. And I told you this. It's been a long day today. Right. She's right. Right. Um, Today she is at Regent University. Are you familiar with Regent University? Let me just get this straight for you guys. Right. Right. Here we go. So let me just look to see that everything is right here. So Michelle Bachmann is an American politician who was a U.S. representative for Minnesota's 6th congressional district from 2007 to 2015, and she ran for United States president in 2012, and then dropped out after the Iowa caucus. Today, she is dean of the Robertson School of Government at Regent University, and I've heard her speak a few times and was amazed every time at her incredible eruditeness and mixture of three things at the same time. She was both a strong policy intellectual, a strong Bible and almost preacher-like person, and at the same time, very feminine. All three things at the same time. Really, to be honest with you, as I met her, Michelle Bachmann, I was completely blown away by her personality. An unusual person, really an unusually skilled person. I don't know what you think of her, and it doesn't matter if you like her politically or not. I'm just telling you, I was very impressed when I met her. She was recently at a church, and she had some serious analysis about the situation in Gaza, and we should watch carefully what Michelle Bachmann says, because her analysis, not only is it sharp, but it's also kind of she's not limited. She's not a player inside of Israeli politics. She's looking from the outside in, and so therefore her words are kind of not marred or corrupted in any way. And I was amazed by this analysis. Let's watch it together.
Together with Steve Witkoff, and he brought these two in to handle it. It perplexed me. We have a Secretary of State named Marco Rubio. Why wasn't he the one involved in these negotiations? Nonetheless, these two were involved in the negotiations. This is completely politically incorrect. I'm not speaking for Tony or FRC. I'm not speaking for Jack or for this wonderful church. But I was very concerned because of the historical nature of the relationships that both Mr. Witkoff and Jared Kushner had with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. Because Qatar is the #1 funder of terrorism in the world. The #1 nation state of terrorism in the world is Iran. So they're twin nations that are twin partners in terror. Iran is the chief sponsor of terrorism. Qatar is the chief funder. You need to know this about Qatar. Qatar is only 330,000 people. That's it. It's the size of Pittsburgh. That's Qatar. They have 2 million slaves that work for them. They take their passports away from them, but it's only 330,000 people. So why are they such smarty pants, Qatar? It's because they have money. They control 14% of the natural gas in the world, 330,000 people. These are the richest people in the world in Qatar, some of the richest. And so one thing that I do know, they believe very strongly in political Islam. And so they are all about advancing, conquering the world for Islam. They're very committed. So they put their money where their mouth is. They're the chief propagandists in the world. So then what happened in the last few months from America? President Trump's first foreign policy trip was to meet with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia. Of the 19 hijackers who took down the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and Flight 93, 17 of the 19 were Saudis. So we're trying to have a relationship with the Saudis and the Qataris and Syria. The self-appointed president of Syria was #4 on the terror watch list. We were offering $10 million for the scalp of this guy who appointed himself the head of Syria. And when President Trump went over, this terrorist put on a suit, trimmed his beard, changed his clothes, and President Trump's in a photo shaking hands with this guy. And I just thought, this is a little shocking to me. You normally don't see something like this. But there's been a lot of private deals done, financial deals with people who are involved in foreign policy. This is very unusual. If you have Qatar's junior business partners conducting American foreign policy with them, especially regarding Israel, I've never seen anything like this before. So I'm standing back trying to watch what's going on. So then the plan comes out, and this made all the bells go off in my head, because contained with the plan is the understanding that Israel, that by the way, They were within 2 weeks of winning this war with Hamas. They already controlled 80% of Gaza. They were just right there coming in for the victory. Go back to World War II. We soundly defeated Imperial Japan, soundly defeated Nazi Germany. So when that happened, they're clear winner, clear loser. That's what you need in the Middle East for the Arab mind.
That's
The
right.
Arab mind needs to know there's a clear winner, clear loser, and by the way, the loser loses land. That's how the Arab mind works. So just about as Israel is reaching the goalpost, in comes our envoys, Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and say, wait, stop it. You can't win. Sorry, we're not going to let you win. And so now we're going to have a ceasefire. And now we're going to negotiate. And in the negotiation, Israel, you're not getting control over the land. You're not getting it. And by the way, if the Arabs do everything right, there's a hint they might get their own state out of this deal. Judea, Samaria, and maybe Gaza for their own country. I mean, this is like shocking stuff. Absolute barbarians, murdering, raping barbarians. They're going to get rewarded. And Israel's going to get what? 20 emaciated people back. That's what they're getting out of the deal. 20 emaciated people and dead corpses. That's the deal they're getting after they've lost the lives of 2,500 people in 2 years in this nation, when we saw one miracle from the hand of God after another, week after week after week. You saw the miraculous hand of Almighty God win and defeat Hezbollah, defeat Iran, defeat in Yemen, defeat every enemy on 7 front wars. We watched the Bible play out for the last 2 years.
I'm always amazed at Michelle Bachmann, because this is the thing that just blows my mind. She is both an excellent policy analyst, and then she's seamlessly moves into like being a preacher who sees everything from a religious God point of view. Now, for me, this is exactly the kind of thinking that I wish permeated the world, where you could see both realpolitik and policy and God. A lot of times in this world, the God people, like, they leave policy. And when you deal with the policy people, they're not comfortable talking about God. But she is amazing. She really is able to kind of smoothly weave this thing. She just sees the world in that lens, and I'm just always amazed by her. And somebody writes that Xavier Single writes she was a kibbutz volunteer. I didn't know that, but really, I have also met her and spent time with her, and was very impressed with her on a personal level.
And God was victorious over Israel's enemies. And just as we have the weakest of all enemies, Hamas, and Israel's about to go and defeat them, because again, Israel is handcuffed. We, the United States, we were the bad guys for the last 2 years. Under the Biden administration, America handcuffed Israel and told them, you're not allowed to win. You can't win. And we denied them ammunition. We denied them weapons. We made Israel's life miserable. That was under Joe Biden. Then when President Trump came in, it took a long time to ramp up to get them the weapons and the ammunition. But then weirdly, out of nowhere, Jared Kushner re-enters the scene. What had he been doing? He struck a $2.5 billion deal with the Saudis and the Qataris when President Trump left office the first time. Okay, that's his thing. That's what he's doing. But you're going to bring him back in to negotiate the deal? Somebody who has financial arrangements on the line and is a junior business partner of Saudi Arabia that's clearly been involved in terrorism against the United States, and Qatar, which is actively involved in terrorism. And you should know this, by the way. You wonder why American students, Christians, conservatives have turned against Israel? I'll tell you why. It's because for the last 2 years, it's documented, Qatar has spent over $200 billion in America targeting your kids and targeting you. They spent it on American newsrooms, on influencers, and in academic institutions. So all those riots at Columbia University paid for courtesy of Qatar. Not just Soros, Qatar. Okay, so why is American policy that we're going to allow that? Why is it that 2 weeks ago, President Trump announced an executive order that we, the United States, are going to give a NATO-type guarantee to Qatar? Anybody who attacks Qatar, America is going to defend Qatar. In what universe? Why? This just came out. Just this week it came out. I love Pete Hegseth. Went to church with him since he was in high school. Beautiful believer. But he had a meeting where he was with, I think, his counterpart from Qatar, saying that now we are going to host Qatari F-15s in Boise, Idaho, on an American airbase. So why are we rewarding the chief funder of terrorism, the nation that has housed and hosted Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, a radical terrorist organization? Right. Why are we rewarding them when their goal is, and they've been propagandizing our students against Israel? Why are we doing this? So I'm asking these questions and thinking, I don't know, I'm looking at this 20-point plan, and they're talking about taking away Israel's land, which would violate Joel chapter 3,
That's right.
verses 1 through 3, and perhaps take away control, or at least at minimum, allowing Israel the right to to annex, which means to put their sovereignty over Judea, Samaria, which since 1967, Israel owned Gaza and they've owned Judea, Samaria. So under international law, this is their land. And now it looks like under the Trump plan, the plan is saying, yeah, Israel, you've owned it since 67, but Gaza, we're going to sever that off. And we're
So Michelle Bachmann is saying things so clearly, so strongly, and it's hard for pro-Israel folks to talk about the way she's. It's hard for. Okay, so once again, just 1 second. Michelle Bachmann says things so strongly, so clearly, and I want to tell you that in Israel, to say these things against the Trump administration that she just said, it's very hard because everybody's like, oh my God, you are going against our best friend and you're messing things up right now really bad. But Michelle Bachmann is a true to God American, a Republican, a pro-Trump person. But when she sees things that are wrong and anti-God, she calls it out. And I am jealous because here in Israel, when I start saying to friends like, listen, this deal is crap, what's going on here. We're bringing in Qatar and Turkey into Gaza. That's not victory. That's not giving our soldiers a sense of victory. Well, people hush you up because people are like, well, come on, Trump, he's got a vision. He knows and this and that. And you can't say anything. You're like, you can't say, you know what? Kushner and Witkoff are Qatari. They're tools in the hands of Qatar. Right? You can't say that because people are like, come on, these guys are here to do good for us. They love Israel and they're Jewish people. And you get shut up a lot. And what I love about Michelle Bachmann is that she's able to say these things as an American, as a Republican, as a non-Jew who loves Israel. She just calls it as she sees it. And she says it very strong. And of course, it's anti-Bible. Of course, it's anti-Bible. Of course, it's anti the will of God. It's also anti-common sense. Don't give Hamas any control in Gaza. Hello. Thank you, God, for that message. But I could even figure that out in common sense. Okay, in common sense. By the way, in Judaism, we have a saying that says, Derech Eretz kadma Torah. Common sense comes before Torah. Like you don't always need Torah to tell you, don't give away your land to your enemies, because that's just plain dumb. Don't let Gaza be controlled by the guys who made October 7th, because they're your mortal enemies. Destroy them. Duh. Anyway, and of course God says these things to you because he thinks like, don't be too smart. Let me explain to you. You got to defeat your enemies. So I want to thank Michelle Bachmann for laying it clearly and saying something that I said on the news, which is the emperor has no clothes. I said that on I-24. I'm like, this Gaza deal, the emperor has no clothes. It's like, can somebody say the truth? This stinks. Okay. Yeah, I want to say it. This is a bad deal. This is a bad way to go forward. The bad way to go forward is to bring Qatar and Turkey and Egypt into Gaza. Bad way to go forward. Israel should control this land. And I want to thank Michelle Bachmann for speaking so clearly. And I want to thank you for following her words and what I say as well, and what I think God says and what common sense says. If you do follow this channel and what we do, please support us by going to buymeacoffee.com/Yishai, buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Very easy way to support the stuff that we do. And it's a great way to support the team. We have a great team. And another way to support the team is to do super chats. I don't think we've had a super chat today. Let's have a super chat. It'll make a big difference for us as we broadcast, and we're able to push that truth out to the world. And we want to hear your voice as well. Also, another great way to support the show and support what we do is fightforisrael.org, fightsforisrael.org. Our beautiful projects, including tractors for the Holy Land, tractors for those holy farmers. And of course, you can like, subscribe, comment, become a member, and check out our web store, our YouTube store at Yishai Fleisher TV. Thank you again, Michelle Bachmann. You rock. All right, folks, let's take a little mental break before we go to the next segment. We have more good stuff. Yocheved, I think that Michelle Bachmann is definitely a segment that we should put on our YouTube channel as it's a standalone, and also the Dan Diker segment, I think, are very good. Let's take a tiny little break. Let's take a comedy break, shall we? It's a comedy break, but not really a comedy break. It's just too true. Here is the Israeli comedy troupe Eretz Nehederet and their take on the flotillas, the Greta selfie flotillas, the Greta flotillas that come to rescue Gaza. Here's what it looks like on the inside from the eyes of Eretz Nehederet, Israeli comedy troupe.
Land! I see land!
Where? On TikTok?
No! Land! Over there! Gaza!
We are here! We have come to save you!
Stop the war! Stop the war!
Guys, amazing news! They stopped the war!
What? They signed a ceasefire after we demanded a ceasefire?
Yeah.
How dare they?
Yes! I mean, I put my whole life on hold for this struggle. Everything. My career, my relationship, my rooftop Pilates.
But I thought stopping the war is like a good thing, right? We all know war is worse than gluten.
But what am I supposed to do with the boat now? Start fishing?
Oh, right. Okay, I know. We can have more oppressed people in the world. Like, what about the genocide of Uyghurs in China?
Genocide made in China? Sounds fake.
And also, can you realize this becoming the next kafia? Get real, bro.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking. Probably the shrooms.
Uh-huh.
What? I know. They're slaughtering Christians in Nigeria.
Jews are slaughtering Christians in Nigeria?
Nigeria will be free from the jungle to the tree! Nigeria will be free!
Wait, apparently it's Muslims that are doing the killing. Yeah, Jews had nothing to do with it.
So where is the fun? It's not juicy. It's not juicy.
I mean, we can always go back to fight global warming.
Global warming? What are we, 12?
Wait, they're killing Palestinians in Gaza again.
Death! Death to the IDF! Death! Death to the IDF!
Wait, it's not the IDF. No, it's Hamas militants killing other Palestinians.
How dare you call them militants? They are freedom fighters.
So, like, who are they killing?
Other freedom fighters.
It's a mutual, non-accountable freedom conflict. Can't you handle a little moral complexity?
Okay, now the Gazans are eating a whale.
What? A whale?
No, it's probably the shrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is just a great segment. So many truths are laid bare here. Great job, Eretz Nehederet. Great humor, great fun. Really laying out that it has to be juicy. It has to be juicy, right? And when Hamas kills Arab Palestinians, so-called quote unquote, nobody cares. They only care about it when it's an Israeli. When it's an perceived Israeli attack, when folks are dying all over the world, there's no interest. You just see the anti-Semitism through and through. Great job, Eretz Nehederet, and thank you for that great comedic segment. Okay. Shalom, everybody. Somebody says, say hello to Michigan. Hello to Michigan. No problem. And I am so happy to be with you. I'm so happy to be with you. Somebody here says, Tucker and Candace wouldn't look out of place on that boat. Certainly. And I have somebody on next who is an amazing fighter against Tucker and against Candace, and that is Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza is an awesome power of an intellectual. And we're going to have him in just a minute. Before that, I saw that there was two super chats. One was from Corey Berg, J9C, who sent $10 for the tractors. Thank you very much. That's a great blessing, and thank you so much. And Camilio Estevez writes, my folks and I are coming home after 24 years in Australia. Can't wait. Am Yisrael Chai. We are looking forward to seeing you in this good land. And we send you blessings and all those. And by the way, let me just take a pause for a second and say that my good friend Ari Abramowitz, a brilliant person, said something to a group which I think is just so true. It was so true that it blew me away about how simple and true it was. It was one of these simple and true phrases that it just blew my mind. And he says like this. He says, when Jewish people see that Lavan or Laban's face has turned against Jacob, then it's time to go. That's what we learn from the book of Genesis.
Hi, everybody. So it seems like Yishai's power is suddenly out. So I just want to say good night to everybody. And I don't know if there's any way we can get him back right now, but we have no power in their house. Oh, wait, it's coming back online. Hang on 1 second. Let's see what's going to happen. So I just wanted to thank everybody for having such a great, wonderful live stream and a chat tonight. So
It looks like I'm back, yo.
Oh, he's coming back.
I
He's
had
coming back.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I had a power out, an actual power out here. And yo, this means I got to tell you, we got to invest in a
generator.
Not a generator, not UBS. Yeah, UBS, uninterrupted power battery supply. So got to definitely do that. I got to invest in that. So
Well,
okay.
I just want to make one comment.
UPS.
Eagle,
that's right. It's UPS. It's
this
an
guy
uninterrupted power
says-
supply. That's right.
says his comments are being censored. Nobody's comments are censored. We only remove comments that are against the basic principles of the channel.
Oh, that's right.
So
I don't think
worry.
I don't think I
We're
talked
not-
about the basic principles.
We're not censoring you, Eagle.
Right. We got to talk about the basic principles. One of them is that we don't allow proselytizing on our channel here. And somebody says, or you could use a laptop. Maybe I would have one as a backup. That's not a bad idea. But I think a UPS would be a good idea to have here. In any case, that's right. We don't allow proselytizing here, and we try to encourage positivity and good atmosphere in the chat. And I want to thank Yo so much for managing the chat. It's a lot of work, the chat. In any case, what I wanted to say to you before this little annoying power outage was that I wanted to play for you just a snippet of an awesome interview with an awesome intellectual. We know that Dinesh D'Souza is just one of the great intellectuals out there. And later on Yishai Fleischer TV, we're going to get the full interview that I did with Dinesh here on the live stream. Here's a part of it. And I'm excited. You know, I want to tell you, when you do an interview, so, you know, you're very focused on what the person's saying, and you want to get to the next question. You want to make sure that there's flow. But sometimes you just like, you're like, when you listen to it again, you're like, whoa, there's another level. You know what it's like? You know what it's like? Do you know what it's like? You drive, right? You drive someplace every day, but then something happens and your wife drives you, or somebody else is driving you in the same place. Then you're like, oh, look at all these other details that I miss because I'm actually driving and I don't get a chance to really look around. Same thing. I'm excited to hear this interview because doing an interview with Dinesh is awesome. He is awesome, but I had to do a lot of focus time to make sure that the interview went well. I'm looking forward to actually hear Dinesh and what he said to me. Here is a significant, but really a quarter of the discussion that him and I had on Yishai Fleischer TV. Without further ado, here's Dinesh D'Souza. The deal. I didn't think that it was a good idea to give away horrible murderous terrorists. I didn't think America would ever do such a thing. I didn't like the idea of stopping the war with Hamas. And I was a little bit annoyed. You know, he's going now to Sharm el-Sheikh and he's going to make a deal with bringing Qatar and Turkey into Gaza. I'm like, oh, man, we don't need to internationalize Gaza. We need to nationalize Gaza. And yet I was left with a profound sense of personal hope, but also I think that I heard a kind of national sigh, 2 years at war, a little bit of a break, a little bit of a positivity. We are surrounded, Israel is, by hate. Dinesh, and I don't know if you know, if you can, maybe you personally with the life that you've led can feel that. And what you said about Trump, we live a life where we think of ourselves as good, but surrounded by hate. And here came an American president and gave us this feeling like, no, you are good. This is good. God is good. The story is good.
You know why I think that's very important psychologically and also spiritually is because the dilemma of the good man or the good country is this: the bad people, and you know, when I use the phrase "the dragon's prophecy," the dragon, the title of my documentary, refers to the devil. And one of the things I bring out in the film, a conundrum of evil, and in fact, right out of the handbook of the devil, so to speak, is this: the devil forces the good person into a choice where you feel like I have no choice but to do evil. Because the evil is so palpable that you're like at a loss for how to fight it. And there seems to be no other way than to jump into the pit and fight evil with its own weapons. I mean, what other weapons do you have? The only other alternative appears to be surrender or retreat. I mean, to use a vivid analogy, if someone does a home invasion on you and they massacre your family, they run away, you chase them down, they jump into a truck, but they come out with their own wife and 7 children, stick them in front of themselves and go, "We dare you to shoot. Shoot and become a murderer like we are." You know, and you're like, what do I do? So Israel has been living through this kind of horror that, and don't be mistaken, the blame for it lies 100% with Hamas and with the radical Muslims. But what I'm saying is the good person is like frustrated to no end, because how do I go about fighting these people who operate in this barbarian mode? And in some ways, I think what Trump is offering is at least a temporary relief from all that. I think that partly explains this enormous spiritual weight being lifted from your shoulders.
Yeah. I just want you to know that last night we have this 7-day holiday called Sukkot, which is the holiday of booths, right? Festival of booths, feast. And then we dance. We dance throughout the whole holiday. It's a holiday of joy. And then finally we have a last day, an 8th day, as the Bible mandates, an 8th day, which is a day where we dance around with the Torah all day. Now, then it's the end of the holiday and you're like, I'm done dancing. I've done it the whole time. But we have like another set of dances. And every year I used to skip it because I'm just too tired. This year, my kid said to me, "Abba, Father, every year you regret it. So you got to go dancing." And then they told me that at the tent of courage and bravery, there's a tent outside of the Knesset, which memorializes the fallen Israeli soldiers in this conflict and memorializes their call for victory. There's going to be dancing. And I just couldn't say no. And I went last night to dance with family members of fallen soldiers, with pictures all around of fallen soldiers, beautiful young men and women. And we danced and cried, and we're uplifted. It has been a tough 2 years, Dinesh. It has been a tough 2 years.
Well, as an American, I have to say, and as a Christian, I have to say that I have untold admiration for the fact that Israel and the Jews have been on the front line of fighting radical Islam. This is a fact that is not only not appreciated on the political left, but I'm sorry to say there are some people on the political right who question America's pact with Israel, friendship with Israel, alliance with Israel. And I say to those guys, I go, look, America's own record in fighting radical Islam is mixed at best. Jimmy Carter pulled out the Persian rug from the Shah. That's how we got Khomeini. That's how radical Islam got a hold of a major state. Then after 9/11, we pulverized the Taliban, but over time they came back. So that can't be counted a long-term success. And then, of course, the Iraq war was botched in ways that we all know about. So this is the American record. Now compared to the Israeli record, which is in a short time taking on terrorism, not just in Gaza, not just Hezbollah on the Lebanese side, but taking it on in Yemen, taking it on in Sudan, taking it on in Iran. I mean, Iran is a country, 8 times the size of Israel? To be able to pull that kind of operation off. I mean, America came in at the last minute, but America's role was kind of like, hey, can you lend me a couple of B-2 bombers like for 48 hours? You can have them back. So at a very minimal price, so to speak, the United States gets enormous benefits out of what Israel is doing. And so I just want to say, as an American, as a Christian, I have a great appreciation for what Israel has done. You're the country that put your soldiers on the line. You shed the blood, and you produced results that are beneficial for your country, to be sure, but also in a great measure for ours.
Okay, so I appreciate that, and I think there are many people in America who see it that way. I think many average people in America see it that way. If I drive around in Texas and I speak to average local folks, that's the way they see it. But there is a turn in the right wing in the United States against us, which is, we were not prepared for that. We've been prepared for a long time to fight the left, and we understand their arguments, understand their mentality. But suddenly we're getting it from the right, and we're a little bit at a loss. It's like, hey, we're supposed to be on the same team here. We're supposed to be pro values of freedom. I don't always like the word West so much. I prefer freedom values, biblical values. We're at the forefront. We're defending you guys. You guys defend us. We're on a team here, economically, morally, militarily. And suddenly we get Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, starting to call us vermin, starting to call us, owning the media of the world, starting to say that we kill babies. It's like classic blood libel anti-Semitism is back, and it's in the American right wing. Like, we did not, our defenses were not ready for that. My defenses were not ready for that.
The case for supporting Israel, in my view, is threefold. There is the kind of on the ground political and strategic case, which I alluded to a moment ago, the fact that Israel is on the front lines. But there's also the deeper kind of cultural and moral case. Now, I put it this way, even if you don't like the phrase the West, I don't mind the phrase the West, just because I think what I'm talking about specifically is a civilization built on the twin pillars of Athens and Jerusalem. The philosopher Leo Strauss says Athens represents classical reason. Of course, it also represents the origins of democracy, the Socratic idea of questioning, freedom of speech. But hey, Athens would be nothing without Jerusalem, because Jerusalem represents creation, it represents the Exodus, it represents the Ten Commandments, it represents the Hebrew prophets. So in a way, Jerusalem supplies the moral core of Western civilization, and the civilization cannot endure if one of those two pillars falls. And the third reason, I think, is just the straight out biblical reason, which is the deep connection between Judaism and Christianity. Now, what's remarkable is that the kind of right-wing critics of Israel try to attack all three pillars. specifically the first one and the third one. They act as if Israel is not really a good ally. They imply that Israel is somehow manipulating the United States, which is on the face of it absurd. And then they also suggest that somehow Christianity represents such a radical break with Judaism that the Old Testament or the Hebrew scriptures no longer belong in the Christian Bible. Now, this is a sort of a scandal, because the Old Testament and the New Testament are joined at the hip in the Christian scriptures for 2,000 years. And so this is a repudiation really of the fundamentals of Christianity itself. The other thing I find particularly appalling is that it's quite obvious in the world that what we have now is I would call it a diabolical alliance between the morally degenerate cultural left and the radical jihadis on the other side. So this is like, some people call it the red-green alliance, red being a symbol for communism, green, of course, for radical Islam. And this red-green alliance is united not by common goals. We know, I think quite obviously, that neither of these two groups can inhabit each other's world very easily, but it is united by common hatred. Hatred for Jews and Israel on the one hand, hatred for Christians, and for the principles of the West on the other. And so it would seem obvious for anyone on the right that Jews and Christians should come closer together. Israel and the United States should come closer together to repel this attack, this diabolical attack coming, I think, in some ways straight from the dragon himself. And so all of this makes it particularly mystifying, bordering on suspicious, that you have people on the right, in a sense, undermining Israel and consequently strengthening the global jihadis and strengthening the cultural left. For this reason, I think we're seeing something that goes beyond just political iconoclasm. We're dealing with something deeply perverse that's politically damaging, but also I would say a repudiation of Christianity itself.
Okay, but what's the roots of it? How do you understand the roots of Tucker, the roots of Candace? Have they been? I see three options. Either they're off their meds and they've just gone loony. Maybe that's true about Candace, but not so likely. Or they had a Jewish agent or Jewish partnership with Ben Shapiro, and they just started hating him, and they started hating all Jews. Or they got annoyed with a phone call from Netanyahu or something. Or they've been bought out by a Qatar, by an Iran, by a Russia, by China, and they've just gone to the other side. Or is there a fourth option? But what is at the root of these folks and they're flip-flop, they're complete 180. And and you have Tucker being like, yeah, Sharia law is kind of cool. What's wrong with that? With his nutty laugh, it's like what do you think is at the root of their thinking?
I can't say I know for sure, but I will say that I think that none of those explanations really works, or at least is sufficient. Let me make the broader point that I think that particularly for secular Jews, now this doesn't apply to you, anti-Semitism itself is difficult to explain, because if you explain it in purely secular terms, you don't get the grasp of it. I know this because I myself, in an earlier book called The End of Racism, I tried to contrast racism and anti-Semitism, making the point that racism is a kind of looking down at people. You're inferior, you're lesser than me, you haven't accomplished everything I have. But anti-Semitism is not quite like that, because in some ways Jews are very successful as a group. They're a very successful tribe of all the tribes in world history. So anti-Semitism, I argued, is a kind of looking up, but a looking up with a sort of resentful, envious glance that says, you could not have succeeded because you're smarter or more hardworking or more entrepreneurial. You succeeded because you're more diabolical. You're willing to stoop to things that I wouldn't do. And I thought to myself, well, this is actually, it seems to me, a kind of like a pretty clever explanation. But guess what? It doesn't go all the way in grasping the phenomenon. Something is like left out. And I would suggest that these natural explanations, as I want to call them, are inadequate in this area altogether. You almost need to go to supernatural explanations. Now, I was talking to Roseanne Barr on her podcast, The Comedian, and I actually pointed out to Roseanne, I go, well, Tucker Carlson once said that he was attacked by a demon. And she goes, oh, no, I know all about that. And I go, well, he says that the demon actually scratched his face, that this was not just some kind of a dream. It was a physical attack. And she goes, yeah, I know the name of the demon. And I go, well, what is it? And then she gave me the name, which I actually don't recall. It's something like Bilak or something like that. And I was like, wow. The reason we went down this road is, look, Tucker, first of all, is saying the opposite of what he used to say. So it's not like he's a lifelong anti-Semite. Number two, Tucker is from a well-off family, and he's obviously he's got a huge following. So the idea is that he kind of needs Qatari money, to be passed under the table. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think that, again, I don't know if he's getting it or not, but I don't think that can really be his motive.
Right.
It's got to be more than that. So these are people that I know. I mean, Candace, I used to speak at her events called Blexit. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene quite well. And so I am baffled by their motives, which, by the way, I don't think are always identical. They're three very different people.
Right.
But what I do know is the effect of it is very bad. And it's bad for MAGA. I mean, it's bad for Trump. I think this is something that could drive a wedge, not just an ideological wedge, but a generational wedge in the Republican Party. Charlie Kirk, as you know, was in the middle of this a little bit because he has a youth organization and the youth is pivoting more anti-Israel. But of course, the older people who gave him money, the donors, and I don't just mean Jewish donors, I mean evangelical donors, I mean Republican businessmen, all of these donors want nothing to have to do with anything that has the slightest aroma of anti-Semitism. So Charlie was facing a revolt, not by Jewish donors, but by donors generally. And this is, I think, he was caught in the middle of all that.
Wow. You know that picture of Charlie with the flag of Israel in front of the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs? I took that picture. I had the opportunity to tour him on his day in Hebron, and he mentioned Hebron many times afterwards. Charlie Kirk, he was in the middle of that. That's what it feels like. It feels like he had a lot of this and that, but he definitely, his sentiment was to help Israel get out of the rut of the international PR, disaster that Israel faced. Okay. All right. That was really fun. And that was part of my interview with Dinesh D'Souza, and the rest will be posted soon on Yishai Fleischer TV. I'm very proud of that interview. I think Dinesh is also, just like Michelle Bachmann, an unusual intellect. So to me, to have a chance to speak of a person of that caliber, doesn't matter if I totally agree with him or not. He's very Christian, and he uses his new movie has Christian imagery. That's not where I'm coming from. That's not where I connect to. That's not my belief system, but I respect him a lot as an awesome thinker and an ally. Very important. Speaking of allies, last video for today that we're going to review is Tommy Robinson, who's still here in Israel. He came for a long trip, and powerful dude, very strong. His strength is courage. He is full of courage. He's full of vinegar and moxie. And he's just out there. And he was in the old city of Jerusalem interviewing Arabs about what it's like to live in the land of Israel. Let's watch Tommy Robinson, a hero of British nationalism, fighting, getting out the truth and fighting the legitimacy war.
Jerusalem, I'm entering where many different religions live together, Jews, Christians and Muslims. We hear so much about this at home. We hear views propagated by media, by commentators about what it's like for Muslims living here. So I thought, as I'm in Jerusalem, I'm going to travel to the Muslim quarter. I'm going to speak to Muslims that live here and own businesses and see what it's like for them living under the state of Israel. Is it fair? Is it balanced? Do they face oppression? Do they face discrimination? Whether they like it, whether they'd rather live under the Palestinian Authority, whether they feel Israeli or feel Palestinian. Just lots of questions I want to ask from them, the people who actually live here. Can I ask you, what's it like living in Jerusalem? I guess, are you a Muslim?
I'm Muslim, yeah.
What's it like living in Jerusalem as a Muslim?
It's a holy place.
It's a holy place?
Yeah.
It's okay, no problem.
No problem?
No problem.
As a Muslim living in Israel, what's it like?
Good.
It's good?
Yes.
So you as a Muslim, growing up here, we're in the Muslim quarter. Have you faced discrimination, unfair treatment, or?
No, I don't feel nothing. I feel safe.
No problem here. I have here before 60 years here. My father,
60,
grandfather.
our
Yeah,
family.
yeah. So that's no problem with me.
No
It's
problem.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Good life.
Good life.
Are you happy here?
Muslims, of course, I'm happy. Even it's hard, I am happy. I'm happy every day I come to my work. I am happy I live here in the old city.
I optionally live here, I work here, I happy here. Thanks God.
Thanks God.
دير بالك.
What do we say? What do we say?
Yeah.
Are they friends?
Yeah.
Are they friends?
Yeah, yeah.
Are
That's
they,
friends.
Are they IDF?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is, yeah.
So Muslim businesses would be friends with the IDF.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like Israel or dislike Israel?
Like Israel.
You like Israel?
Yes.
You see,
I'm born here, I live here.
You're born here, you live here?
Yes.
In Jerusalem, the people Jewish and Christian and the Muslim, this is same people, no different. We doesn't feel different because we live together.
Are you treated second class? Is there a superior treatment for Jews, Christians, and separate to Muslims?
No.
Do you like Israel or hate Israel?
I don't have a problem.
You don't have problem.
No.
You like living here?
Yes, I live here, and I want to also live with the people, with anyone.
You live with Christians, Jews, and
No problem.
No problem.
If you respect me, I respect you.
It's okay. It's very good. Just
you-
come peace.
would you rather live here in Jerusalem or in Ramallah under the Palestinian Authority?
It's not care. All people good.
But where would you rather live, here
Here.
or in Ramallah?
No, here much better.
Here. So it's better living here under the State of Israel than Ramallah under the Palestinian Authority?
Yes.
Because you have many TV, many news saying wrong, doesn't say the truth. Maybe the mind is become inside different thinking. Yeah, I don't know. But about Jerusalem, you have to ask the people live in Jerusalem. The original people live in Jerusalem. Yeah.
See, in the UK, so I'm from England, and many Muslims in the UK hate Israel. They hate it. They want it to be gone. So if you're a Muslim and you're living in Israel, they want the state of Israel demolished, gone.
I think because it's like the situation is so complicated that there's no one like understand because they don't live here. But if they came and live here, they will understand, you know.
We're back on YouTube, but we need you. We need you to like, subscribe, comment, share.
All right. Well, Tommy Robinson does a great job, and I definitely recommend that you like, subscribe, and connect with him and the work that he's doing. I love what he's doing. I think he's the best. But I just think that video is awesome. He's just talking to regular people, and regular people are like, you know what? It's livable. It's doable. It's decent. It's good. There's good opportunities for us. And I think that's very strong. And that's just average people. There's also a lot of people who will tell you that they hate Israel. But the point is, there's young guys. He spoke to a lot of young guys, some older guys. They're just men. They're just like, yeah, no, Israel's all right. And that's such a different picture. You know, and again, he's out there with that microphone, and he's got some interviews with haters. But it's amazing when you see the amount of people that are just like, this is where we get a decent life. Where else are we going to get a decent life? In Jordan? In Egypt? Where are we going to get a decent life around here? Is it going to be in Syria, Iraq, Yemen? All these places are destroyed countries, poor countries, pathetic countries. These guys have it better. And I was proud to see that there were Arabs who were like, yeah, life is better here. That's good. That's good. And we should demand even more loyalty and more support and more Israeli governance, because more Israeli governments will be necessarily more Israeli governments means governance means more prosperity, necessarily more rights, necessarily more blessings, absolutely. And so that is what we should be demanding. Okay, we're having a really fun show, and it's very late. It's a later show than usual. It's not my regular time, and I'd like to start the show earlier, but it's been a very busy day. So I want to finish off with just one last thought, and a rant, if you will. You can't win a war if you don't identify the enemy. And there are 4 enemies that Israel did not identify that made us not yet win this war. The first enemy is Gaza or Hamas. Who is the enemy? The bottom line is that Gaza was the enemy. Gaza, the Gaza people, the Gaza peoplehood. Is it every single one? That's not the way things work. In no situation is every single person your enemy. In no war. But in short, the Gazan people voted for Hamas. The Gazan people backed Hamas. The Gazan people took part in October the 7th. And so therefore, the Gazans were against Israel. No, additionally, if you went into every Gazan house, soldiers report that every single Gazan house had anti-Israel propaganda in their house, including Temple Mount stuff, jihad stuff, Hamas stuff. And that was, soldiers told me, literally every one of the houses had this belief system of anti-Israelism. Remember, Gazans are different than Jerusalem Arabs that we just saw. So if you don't identify Gazan Arabs as the enemy of Israel, then you're not going to be able to defeat them because you're not actually identifying them. You could still have refugees that say, I want to be a non-combatant, I want out. That's fine. But you have to identify that. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, so first is Hamas versus Gaza. The second one is who really aided Hamas? Who is the real Hamas aider and abetter? Okay, there's 2 of them. They're very important players. The first one, the biggest enemy that Israel had in this whole conflict, and it was never named as an enemy, was Egypt. Is Egypt. Egypt did a lot to create this conflict. They allowed the tunnel system between Sinai and Gaza to continue unabated, and they allowed the flow of armaments, monies, and other material through these tunnels. So they basically they got the stuff to Gaza. They're still doing that right now with drones as well. So Egypt basically aided and abetted October the 7th. And then the minute October 7th hit, they closed the borders and said, we're not accepting any refugees, which is really part of the war because they made it so it's very hard to fight that war. So basically, Egypt is a combatant. Why didn't Israel ever name Egypt? Israel should have seen Egypt as a combatant and then bombed open the fences that blocked between Gaza, that separated between Gaza and Sinai. Bomb it open and help refugees go resettle in Sinai until they can be repatriated somewhere else. But you have to identify Egypt. Now, you don't want to because they're an American friend and because you don't want to start a regional war. But the bottom line is that they started the regional war and they're continuing the regional war. So that's enemy number 2. So first, it's not just Hamas, it's Gaza and it's Egypt. Of course, obviously, it's Qatar. They're the funders of Hamas and they prepared the global onslaught against Israel. So Hamas, they're not peace negotiators. They're not peace negotiators like Witkoff would tell you, like they're the peace negotiators. They're not the peace negotiators. They are the Hamas in a suit. They literally house the Hamas leadership and they literally fund that organization. But if you don't call out, if you would have called out Qatar from the get-go as being an enemy, then when Israel bombed Qatar, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. So that's the third enemy. And the fourth enemy, here's a big one. I'm going to say something that really hasn't been said much. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I'd love to hear more from you what you think about it. But there's been a fourth enemy that has not been declared, and that is because Iran has been declared, right? But there's a fourth enemy that has not been declared, and that is China. China has helped create the number one anti-Israel platform, and that is TikTok. Studies show that TikTok is different numbers, 18 to 1, 100 to 1, and 1,000 to 1 anti-Israel propaganda as opposed to pro-Israel teaching. So why are they doing that? Well, there's 2 reasons. Either they're getting cheap energy from Qatar, and that's just part of their deal, which I heard from one analyst. And another more simple one is the Chinese see Israel as, they're not necessarily anti-Semitic, but they see it as the part of the America's power. It's an ally of America. And by striking Israel, you have a war, a remote war against the United States by hitting their ally Israel. So China is part of the problem. They are the ones that have delegitimized us throughout the world through their this mechanism of TikTok and probably other things. And so if you don't declare that and say, listen, the reason we're being so delegitimized is because of this thing called China, well, then we're not really fighting. We're fighting a asymmetrical war because we're not identifying our enemies. And so that's a problem. So, my friends, let me take this off. You know what? I feel like holding this mic. How about this? Is this okay? So, my dear friends, if you don't declare who your enemies are, first thing, not everybody knows who you're really fighting, and you are not going to be as successful because you are just not going to strike at those enemies in a full way, like we haven't struck against Egypt, like we have not struck against the Gazan thing, and just really helped to evacuate Gaza from all the evil that's there. Just like we haven't struck at Egypt, just like we haven't really struck at Qatar fully, and that we haven't said publicly what the Chinese role in this whole thing is. And that's a problem. Let's put that to the side. I want to finish off the show with some spiritual thoughts. We are coming up to a very beautiful Torah portion. That Torah portion is called Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha. Go to yourself. Go to the land of Israel, to a land which I will show you. And there's a duality in that phrase, to a land which I will show you. It could mean to a land which I will show you the land, or to a land that I will show you off. I will show you. And it's the same thing in Hebrew. El haaretz asher areka, to land that I will show you, or land that I will show you. I will show you after the world. That's the land of Israel. And Lech Lecha, in numerology is 50 and 50, which can also be reduced to 5 and 5, because Lech and Lecha are the same, they're spelled the same way. And you have the 5 and 5. The 5 and 5 of the Jewish people coming back to the land of Israel is Lech Lecha, and then the other 5 and 5 is the 10 Commandments, right? The 10 Commandments of 5 and 5. And those two 5 and 5s, they go together. The land of Israel is Lech Lecha, and the 10 Commandments is the walking in the path of God. So you walk in the land, you walk with His Torah. Those two things are married to one another, as the rabbis say. Don't read the word morashah. The word morashah, which means internal inheritance, is written only about two things: the land of Israel and the Torah. Sages say, don't read it morashah, rather read it meorasa, which is read it a different way, which is that those two things are engaged to one another. The word morasa means engaged, betrothed, the Torah and the land of Israel. Lech Lecha is the beginnings of the Jewish people's connection to the land of Israel. Go to that land. And in the end, there's going to be a second Lech Lecha, and that second Lech Lecha is to walk to the Temple Mount, to Jerusalem, to the mountain of God, where God shows Himself, to a land that God, He is the one that reveals Himself and shows Himself and connects to the world in that holy and awesome place called the Temple Mount. My dear friends, it has been an honor and a pleasure to be with you, and I thank you so much. I want to remind you that there are ways to support the stuff that we do. First is buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. You see it? Yeah, it's right there. Very important, very helpful. Please support the show. The show is found at Yishai Fleisher TV on YouTube and on other channels as well. The other thing is Fight for Israel, fightforisrael.org, where we support the beautification of the land of Israel through many awesome projects, including the Biblical Highway and tractors for the Holy Land, tractors for the farmers of the Holy Land that are holding on to our land. We believe in go big and go home, not go big or go home, go big and go home. Get it? And we believe that we are living in a time of Zionism, not cynicism, baby. And we believe that Palestine is Jewish. I didn't even bring out any of my fun characters today. Or where are all the guys? I guess I'm too tired today. But there's a lot of great folks that love the Jewish people, and you are amongst them. That's right. You are amongst them wherever you are. So I'm sending you blessings from the land of blessings. I want to thank Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, so much for this great day, for the fight, for the return of Eitan Moore and the other hostages home. But the return of the hostages in no way means that the war has ended. Quite the opposite. This stumbling block that has limited us from fighting is done. Now it's time to destroy our enemies in toto. And bodies is not the thing that should stop us from fighting the way we should fight all the way. I want to thank my awesome team, including Malka, including Yo, of course, including David, including Moshe, including Ben, including Meira, and a special prayer to our boy Netanel, who needs a little bit of love and prayers. So Netanel, we're sending you good energy, and we hope to get you safe back to your home, back to your job soon, Bezrat Hashem. God bless you, Netanel. We are really praying for your safety and for your situation. That's right. We love you, Netanel, and we're strong together, folks. And that's it. I want to thank you. That's right. And look at this. I'm looking at this. See, Biblical Highway, Abrahamic Faith, Restoration of Holy Sites, Tractors for the Holy Land, Broadcasting Truth and Courage. These are some of the amazing and important projects that we are up to. That's it. Thank you, Hashem, again, for the opportunity to speak to all these wonderful people from throughout the world. Let me just check this for a second, make sure that I didn't forget anybody here. And I want to thank Darth Vader for becoming a new YouTube member. Thank you very much, Darth. And thank you, Truth Liberates, who says, thank you, Yishai, for having this great stream. And we got love from Guatemala, Am Israel Chai. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. And more great stuff is on the way here. We have much, much more to talk about, to teach, and to share about the great light that Hashem is bringing to Jerusalem and to the land of Israel. God bless you wherever you are. Lots of love, lots of goodness from the good land, and shalom.